Today we are going to learn about the king and rook checkmate. This is a little bit tougher than the king and queen checkmate because the king can take the rook if it ever gets close enough and the rook doesn't move. Basically, the king would have to capture on a diagonal like right here. That'd be the only way. But other than that, the rook is still a pretty powerful piece and should be able to avoid capture because it's such a speedy piece as well. But anyway, every blue circle represents a square that the black king could move to if he were given as many moves in a row as he wanted. Our goal as white is to shrink this box down and keep shrinking it down until the black king is stuck on the edge of the board. So let's see, the first move is kind of dramatic. Watch this. Boom. So immediately, the black king no longer has access to the third rank, second rank, or first rank squares. And our goal is to make sure that the king never regains access to any of these squares. So here's what happens. The king moves, we move our king up. The king moves again because he's trying to go over to the rook and take it. And then we move our rook here. And as you can see, that substantially shrinks the box that the black king can move to. If we had continued to move our king over, the king, would be able to possibly get our rook. So we have to be very careful of that. So here we go. We move our rook to d3. That shrinks the box considerably. And now we're going to give the black king a choice. As you can see, this check forces the black king to pick a side of the board. Well, there's two different boxes. If you're playing black, the best option is to move to the square or to the area that gives you more squares, because that means it'll take a little bit longer to checkmate. So, in this example, the black king moves up to the side that had 12 squares instead of the side that has 9. And the white king comes and defends the rook so that the black king cannot capture the rook. The king moves up. And so you'll see, it looks like the black king has access to some more squares on the bottom section of the board. That's because when the king moves up, the rook gets cut off. You see, currently the rook guards these squares, but when the king moves there, the rook no longer guards this square over here. And so technically, if we weren't paying attention, the black king could maybe slip past this way and come down. But that's very unlikely to happen because we're aware that that can happen. So here's what they do. They go for it. The black king is going to try to move this way, but white gets to make a move as well, and we check. And once again, we have this weird situation where we have given black a choice. Either he can move up into the small box, or he can move down into a smaller or a larger area. But it's a trick, because watch what happens if he does move there. Checkmate, as you can see, because our king guards these 3 squares and the rook guards these 3 squares. So the king cannot get out of check. So that is actually kind of a tricky one. But if black knows a little bit about chess, they'll move up. And they won't be able to resist the white king and rook much longer. So here we go. The white king comes up. The white rook is now under attack by the black king. So again, if we just move our king and we're not paying attention, we'll lose our rook and the game will be a draw. But if we know a little bit about chess, we will move the rook to safety. And you'll notice that we are keeping an eye on these 2 squares. We could have moved the rook this way, but that actually increases the squares that the black king can move to. So for example, I go back, you'll see here, we go here, we see we're keeping everything kind of small for black. Whereas if we go over here, the box grows considerably. And we don't want that because we need to be able to shrink the box down so the king goes to the middle. to the edge of the board. So the rook moves down 1 square, maintaining a hold on these 2 squares. The king moves back, and now we are starting to see the king is getting forced to the edge of the board. There's not a lot he can do here. We have to bring our king in. And just to be clear, the reason we have to bring our king in is we're going to need the king to attack 3 squares on the 7th rank in order to be able to checkmate. And that part's very important. So here we go. We've got the 3 squares covered like this. So our goal now is to move the rook up and checkmate. But black gets to move here. If we did move up, he would just take us. That would be bad. So we have to go back again. The king moves over and checkmate. So this is a tougher checkmate, but the steps are pretty easy. So let's go back and look at the steps all in a row without all the little side comments. So first step, we form a box. The second step is we shrink the box as much as we can. And the third step is continuing to make decisions that help shrink the box. It doesn't really matter what your decision is, as long as you are giving black a choice to have fewer squares to move to than they had before. So here we go. As you can see, we're bringing the king in. And this move right here is really important. I want to emphasize it. This move right here, we just go right here. Really important. If you don't know how to do that move and why, you won't be able to checkmate. So right here, all we're doing is we're maintaining this square and making sure that the king does not take the rook. So we just move here because it maintains the square. And since the king thankfully cannot move like a knight, he cannot take the white rook. So then the king is forced to go this way because he can't move into check. As we've learned, that's not okay. And then we checkmate like this. So there is also a stalemate version of this checkmate, just like there's a stalemate in the king and queen checkmate that you have to be careful of. There's one stalemate you have to be careful of, and that is this situation. Whereas instead of checkmating, because we could just checkmate them right now, but let's say we didn't realize that. We went here because we decided to keep shrinking the box. You'll notice, like right here, this is the size of the box. I can draw all the arrows again. So that's the size of the box. And if we shrink the box down to here, like that, and you can see the shrink. Oh, sorry. That was the next lesson. That did not mean to happen. So you go right here like this. As you can see, it shrinks the box pretty easily. So the king moves to the corner, and then we would move here, and this would be a stalemate. Like, it would be better to do this checkmate, but the stalemate part is when you go here, and you shrink the box down to only the square the king is on. This is a stalemate. The black king cannot take the rook because he would be in check by the white king, and the black king cannot move to the other 2 squares because he would either be watched by the rook or the rook and the king. So this is a stalemate. So do not do this. It's very important. When their king goes to the corner and a king rook checkmate, that usually just means you can checkmate them like this or like this. You see, anytime they're near the corner and you're across from them, you can checkmate. So